So, you remember what playing video games as a kid was like? I'm talking kid, like single-digit ages. Remember how every video game was the greatest back then? Kids don't care if the game is good, bad, or broken just as long as it's new. I, for example, absolutely adored Sonic 2006 as a 13-year-old. Yeah, that one. It was terrible, it was busted, and as far as I was concerned, it fucking ruled. And I played it for hours while I jammed out to my brand new Green Day CD and played with my samurai sword collection. And yeah, middle school was it was rough. If that sounds like your childhood,
other than maybe the middle school bit,
then maybe you also have these surreal, half-remembered games from back in the day stuck in your brain. For me, this was stuff I watched my older cousin play. Mega Man Legends, GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and tons of other cool games that I've rediscovered thanks to the internet. But there was one game that always stuck out to me from that era. Medieval. I remember being instantly sold on the presentation as a kid. The cool, gothic, sword and sorcery aesthetic totally enchanted me. Little me was hooked. Sadly though, my love affair ended when my uncle wouldn't let me borrow the game, and I forgot about it pretty quickly after that. But once I saw ads for the 2019 remake go up at Walmart, of all places, all those memories came flooding back, and I bought it as quick as I could. So yo, I'm Word, and today I want to talk about Medieval. Medieval is a hack-and-slash platformer originally released on the PlayStation 1 in 1998. The version I'm playing is a remaster for the PS4, but Medieval's been around the block a few times. It was remade for the PSP in 2005, re-released on the PlayStation Store in 2007, and ported to Android in 2011. The story revolves around Sir Daniel Fortescue, the long-dead hero of Gallowmere. Or at least Dan was dead. He's revived as an unintentional side effect of a spell cast by Zarek, evil wizard and Count Chocula's second cousin, who's raising an undead army to conquer Gallowmere. Zarek has tried this once before, but Dan duffed on him and sent him back to wizard school.
Kind of.
See, even though Dan got credit for defeating Zarek, he was actually killed right at the beginning of the battle.
Oh, my neck!
He'd never actually fought Zarek at all. So now, Dan's on a twofold quest. One, to kick Zarek back to the cereal aisle, and two, to earn his rightful place among the real heroes of Gallowmere within the Hall of Heroes, which is a kind of Valhalla for grumpy ghosts. But unfortunately for Dan, none of them seem to have much faith. And after controlling Dan, I'm inclined to agree with the ghosts. As far as gameplay goes, Medieval is old as hell, and it shows. Your core gameplay stops and starts at hit bad guy and don't fall in the water. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a problem on its own. You can boil down a lot of games, both really good and really bad, to you jump and you attack and that's it. Medieval's problem is in how you apply your attack and your jump to the world around you. For starters, the platforming. In a word, it's fine. It's a little hard to see where you're going to land sometimes, and the camera certainly doesn't help, but lots of games from this time have this problem. Other than a little bit of wasted time when you miss a jump, this isn't really an issue until Medieval starts bringing out everybody's favorite. Later levels are more death barrier than floor, and again, the camera is not your friend. Dan does have a lot of life, assuming you find the optional health upgrades, but one slip up can take an entire health bar, and that's never fun. I mean, pitfall traps aren't universally awful. In fact, several games use them really well. But lining all sides of a level with a death barrier and then throwing the camera out the window does not a good time make. Take a look at this cave level, for example. I've got to navigate through these narrow strips of floor that the game flat out does not want me to see. If I move too fast, I'm likely to run right off the edge when the camera angle changes. Camera problems like these were common in the 90s, and while this remaster dropped in 2019, I totally understand wanting to keep the remaster true to the original. The developers tried to split the difference by implementing the Dan Cam, an over-the-shoulder camera mode that you can access by holding a button. I find that it's sort of a clumsy solution though. Even though it solves my camera problem here, it's awkward to use in almost any other situation. I honestly would rather have seen the resources spent here go towards fixing the game's regular camera, especially in areas like the caves.
Next up, combat.
Dan has two basic forms of offense, stabbing and shooting. You can hit square for a regular attack, hold the circle button for a charged attack, and cycle between your two equipped weapons with the triangle button. Dan's ranged weapons are all pretty good, but as a result, the ammo's limited. His melee attacks leave something to be desired though. The early game weapons don't have a lot of range or pushback on hit. This means it's really hard to safely engage enemies in the early game, and since it's the early game, there isn't much health to go around. On top of this, if an enemy so much as smells you, it beelines straight at you, and it usually brings its friends. Dan doesn't have any defensive options beyond consumable shields that are about as tough as single-ply toilet paper. There's also no invincibility on either Dan or the enemies after a hit, so if you get mobbed, you're losing a whole lot of life. This combination means that outside of boss fights, which are few and pretty inoffensive, combat is a slap fight determined entirely by who hits first.
There is no better way to show you what I mean than with this anthill level. You see these ants? This is their house, and the second you walk into their range, it is go time. They are in there, and they do not stop going in on you. If you're not swinging, you're probably losing half a health bar before you can get them off of you. Also, if you enter this area at the first time it unlocks, like I did, your shield is melted in a second, and your sword might as well be a toothpick.
Some other nitpicks I have include the checkpoint system, or lack thereof. Did you fall off a cliff one too many times? Maybe botch a boss fight? Start the stage over, the game says. None of these levels are particularly time-consuming, and only a few are actually hard, but the instant death pits, coupled with the sometimes incredibly effective enemies, can lead to a lot of frustration, especially since the game carries over whatever health you had from the previous level into the next level. The weapon variety can also be kind of a pain unless you're a really big fan of 6 identical bow and arrows. And oh my god, dude, the one combat arena level, let me just show you how that went.
Hi! Hi! Good morning!
A few moments later. Two very boring minutes later.
Dead!
Like I said before, Medieval's gameplay is just alright. It's definitely got some problems. But I like this game overall, even if I never plan to play it again. So then, what about the good stuff? Well, the absolute best part of Medieval is the presentation. The really fun writing, environment design, and music all really take the cake here. For starters, the writing is made up of corny, genuinely funny dialogue, and the vocal performances that sell it.
After you were slain, I shot Zarek's champion, Lord Kota, a clean kill through the irons 1,000 yards.
Caramba! That really hurt.
NPCs love to rib Dan about his reputation, especially these gargoyle statues and the other heroes. They have a real bone to pick with Dan and his failures as a hero, but they gradually warm up to him. The tone of these interactions has this fun, campy 90s quality to it, especially in these hint books and loading screens. Check it out.
On my travels across Galamia, I have come across many mysterious and enchanting finds. However, that which filled me with deepest dread was discovery of the tomb of the shadow demons. The key to their...
So the writers, they were flexing their funny bones, huh? Next up is the environment design. The whole world looks like King Arthur legends crossed over with The Nightmare Before Christmas. The jungle areas, though annoying to play through, look dense and foreboding. The castle and town areas feel lived in and fully realized, and there's a lot of variety in terms of locale and design. The plethora of little touches in each level makes these places really feel alive. On top of that, the character designs are especially memorable for the effective way that they blend the light horror vibes and cartoon proportions. For the most part, anyway. Ugh. Dan is especially cool. All of his animations have this lively bounciness to them. The accompanying soundtrack is also pretty good, though it does have some low points. The choral theme suits some of the larger, more sprawling vistas well, though the way the music slowly builds means that it tends to fade into the background sometimes. Much to Little Me's disappointment, Medieval for the PS4 is unfortunately just okay. The dialogue and art direction are fun and interesting, and the game is absolutely gorgeous on the new hardware, but it's still shackled by gameplay that's, at this point, over 2 decades old. I would have loved to see some gameplay reworked for this re-release, especially around more options in combat, more abilities for platforming, and just like the camera in general. Unfortunately though, that seems pretty unlikely to happen anytime soon. And those are my thoughts on Medieval. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing or liking or sharing the video, all that stuff. Again, my name is Word, and I'll see you in the next one.